And we're back.
Do you know what that is, Jordan? Do you know what that noise is?
No.
That's white noise.
That's the soothing, dulcet tones of Ryan Wilder's Whyte Noise.
That's actually, I hate to tell everyone, that's what we're going to do this entire episode.
Yeah. And then I fall asleep making white noise.
Like, wow, Michael's been quiet.
Well, Michael had a bit of a bender last night, so...
Michael did. Michael went out last night with a celebrity chef, Anne Burrell, and I hit Bushwick, and we were the coolest kids in Bushwick.
That sounds like a book. Anne Burrell and I hit Bushwick.
It was a lot of fun. If you don't know who she is, look her up. She's an amazing chef, but also a very fun human being.
I'm going to say, if you watch Food Network, you know who Anne Burrell is. Are you better?
Even if you don't know who she is, when you see her face, you'll be like, oh, the blonde hair with the red lip.
Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
Who stands like Mary Poppins.
Yes.
So I don't know her because I competed on her show, Worst Cooks in America. And even though I wasn't even on her team, I remember she gave me a hug on the last episode and she's like, can we be friends in real life? And I was so deeply honored.
Oh, yeah.
And then it took us 2 years of texting and Instagramming, but then we finally made it happen.
I think I'd try to be so cool. Like, yeah, absolutely. I would love that. When she walked away, I'd be like,
oh, that's what it was, Jordan. Which, don't worry, Jordan, we'll introduce you in just a second after we talk about me.
After we talk about me and Anne Burrell, part 2.
Yes. And 1,000% was that. She gave me a hug and like whispered it in my ear. She was like, can we be friends IRL? And in my head, I was like, what does IRL mean? And then I was like, oh, that's right, real life. And I was like, yeah, sure, of course. And she walked away. And then I was like, bah! Like,
she's so fucking cool. I would have been like, what?
yeah, she's perhaps one of the coolest people I felt very, very honored to have 6 vodkas with her. Which she handled like a champ, and I'm such a lightweight by then. I was like, I'm cool. And then I called her from the subway. I was like, let me know when you're home. And she was like, oh my God, Michael.
But if Anne's drinking, you're drinking.
This is true. But it was a great night. I highly recommend a night out in Bushwick with the fabulous Amber. Anyway, Ryan, introduce our wonderful guest. Speaking of fabulous, fabulous people.
I feel like I'm going to play off of what you said there, but Jordan, this is Jordan with the dark hair and red lips.
Yeah, usually. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was gonna say so. Like, but everyone, this is Jordan Marciano. This is one of my BFFs right here.
So lucky you are.
Yes, I completely agree. And for anyone who may already know Jordan, she is a absolutely fabulous yoga instructor, guide, and teacher. Mm-hmm. What else? I don't know. Do you? Introduce yourself. God, why am I talking?
Who are you? Who even are you?
Why don't you already have this prepared? You should have taken this over by now.
That's about it. I am a yoga and anatomy teacher on the Jersey Shore. I'm a multi-studio director at a fitness facility in Oceanport.
You run the show at the Fort.
Yeah, I run the yoga show.
What's the yoga show?
I have 2 studios that I oversee. I'm the director of 2 of the studios at the club.
Oh, so for some reason I thought this was like a performance art thing. I was like, no. You go to a show, like people play like really cool music and there's like cool lighting and there's like people on stage doing yoga and you're like, welcome to the yoga show.
I mean, if I could get that off the ground for monetary gain.
Jordan's the yoga boss, but I would say just in general, kind of the boss.
Well, ask Rick. I'll tell you that. Yeah. But yeah, that's what I do. I've been practicing yoga for about 20 years, teaching it for about 10, little over 10. And I came from fine arts. I was a photographer, high-end photographer in the city and northern New Jersey for years. The corporate world killed my spirit, so I dropped it.
That's why I have no spirit left. It's
right. I caught it fairly
dead
quickly.
On the inside.
Some people are built for it. I believe that. Like, I am not.
Maybe just share for the listener is that my husband and your husband are
Best
BFFs
friends.
from
for like 30
second
years.
grade or
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
Whoa. I didn't realize they went that far back.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
30 years-ish. Yeah. And that's why they like do their thing. And me and Ryan are always like, well, we'll just do our thing. Ew.
Yeah.
When we went to Palm Springs, like when we planned Palm Springs, the 2 of them had gone to the liquor store or something, and they came back into the backyard, and we were like, by the way, we're going to Palm Springs in February. And they were like, what happened while we were gone? And we were like, oh, we decided in February for our birthdays, we're going to Palm Springs. So put this in your calendar.
It was probably first a healthy amount of alcohol.
Oh, for sure. It was a summer afternoon. Yeah. Yeah. But hey, we did it.
But you did it. All right. Well, shall we get to the meat and potatoes of this?
Other than taking the host lead at the beginning, which I'm still trying to get over.
I mean, don't you know, when you come on our podcast, you're supposed to do the heavy lifting.
I mean, I think you were supposed to introduce us. So just for everyone, Michael and I are each going to spend 10 minutes on our topic. Jordan's going to figure out which one she likes best for whatever reason she's feeling like today.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jordan's going to give us our next topic. And Michael, I'm just going to say up front,
Are you going to win?
I think I found the hook that I need to win. That being said, I do think this is the kiss of death. So, although you did kind of nail it on roller skating with
my friend
show.
Alyssa.
Yeah.
So I did semi-cheat. So I famously am not good at this show. So I famously lose.
I have literally said to Rick, like, poor Michael never gets a chance.
Never wins. It's not even like a bridesmaid situation. It's just like, yeah. So yes, Ryan, our topic is
Two Spirits.
Wow. And you said to me, I'm not going to tell you because you're going to love this one and it's perfect for you to be on.
I was going to say, if I recall, you do have indigenous blood, correct?
Yes, I do. From very, very minimal, but from my dad's side, yes.
Nice. Well, who's going to go first?
Michael's going to go first.
Oh,
okay.
Great.
All right. Ready, set, go.
Okay. I love this topic. So I had heard of Two-Spirit, but to be fair, I didn't know that. Like, it was one of those things where I knew but didn't. And so, obviously it comes from native cultures and for people who don't know, and the idea of sort of like two gender. And I learned that really it's like four, I think so it's interesting that we're like two gender, because really when you get to the root of it, most native cultures, I mean, it's two, but it's four, where there's like male, female, and then like there's the two versions on either side, like female to male, male to female, and then variations within, but there's sort of like a four structure version that a lot of people go to. And it's just like beautiful. And obviously that sort of ended when colonizers came in and they were like, Christian values, we don't understand. So therefore you're bad. So we're going to prosecute you.
You're a boy or you're a girl. Stop it.
Make up your mind.
You're saying that was a long time ago, or are you saying that was like yesterday?
I'm saying it, yeah. It never quit. So they were like, we don't understand, therefore it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the way we were going there, I thought colonizers were in vaudeville.
I know. I gave them the wrong accent. I realized that after. I feel like English and like Dutch and Spanish colonizers didn't roll up going, hello, kid. Da-da-da-da-da. Smallpox. Like
What's your pronoun?
That's not how they sounded. Although we don't know. I wasn't there. I haven't been to that one island where they say they still have the original accent. What is it? Off the coast of Georgia or North Carolina, where they're like, that's the original, like, that's how like Shakespeare would have spoken. Like, that's the accent.
I've never heard that.
I don't remember. I'll have to find it. There's an island. I want to say it's off the coast of either North Carolina or Georgia, and they still have like the original like Elizabethan accent.
Oh, love that.
So they're like, if you were to like do Shakespeare properly, like that's how these people sound, and it's like this wonky like hello. Like I feel like in my brain they sound like Katharine Hepburn.
Yeah.
They probably don't, but that's what I've decided.
It's not like Chicotique or one of those islands.
I don't know.
That's the one with the horses, right?
Yeah, but it's also like very isolated. They're all kind of isolated.
And I think because it was pretty isolated. Anyway, I digress. But so they rolled up and they were just like, no, two-party system. So, but it's really beautiful. And I think especially in a lot of native cultures, like the two-spirit people were revered quite often. They were somehow seen as like a higher, more elevated person because they encapsulated both genders. And so they were someone to be like deeply respected and celebrated. And it's like such a shame that we've lost that. And so where I went, I was curious as to if it was just like Native Americans and tribes in Alaska. And it's like, it's just amazing how we've gotten to where we are, because it was, when you look up, it was like every culture had this. There were over I found this great article on Reckon that came from July of 2024. It's called "Gender Fluidity Was Never a Phase," and then it highlights 13 ancient cultures where non-binary, like gender fluidity, was a revered thing. And I'm not going to list all three, because I did a listing thing one episode and it really knocked me back. But cultures that I didn't fully expect, like some
I think you should do
ancient,
it. Do it.
But like ancient Greece, ancient Rome, ancient Egypt, like honestly, that didn't shock me, because those were also cultures where like homosexuality was revered.
Yeah.
Like men were expected to sleep with men. Again, it was also deeply patriarchal. Like it was skewed very much towards men. Like women still kind of got the shit end of the stick. But like in Egypt, it was a real like special thing if you were a girl that expressed male tendencies. It would be like they had this big, beautiful ceremony when she would essentially become a man. And that was and she was given all the rights of men. So if you were like, I guess we would say like a female to male transgender person, like in ancient Egypt, you were like, you got like basically like the Egyptian version of like a bar mitzvah. They were like, welcome to the tribe. And even in Italy, which I didn't expect, like Italy had it, like ancient Italy, they were revered. And they, and a lot of them too, which I love. It's fascinating now that they want to keep like, they're like, it's going to hurt kids. Like it's going to like do something to affect children. And a big theme with like the native tribes and a lot of these ancient cultures that really revered this sort of two-spirit people, the people that embodied both genders, they brought their children to them. Like that was like the first thing they did, because they wanted, in almost every one of these, they were like, when people had babies, they brought their baby to the two-spirit person or whatever their name was in that culture, because they were meant to bring like good luck and prosperity, because they were essentially a higher being and they wanted them to bless their child. So like, and then some cultures, they also took them, they were good luck for gambling. But like, that's another thing that I think is hilarious, and we should...
Well, maybe that's where we need to focus in today's culture, because it's associated with money and maybe like...
But they were associated with good fortune. So if you had a baby or a gambling problem, go see the two-spirit person. Like, and it's just like, how did we get away from that? Because it was just like, even in Europe, like this was a thing in Italy, like post-Roman, like,
which is very surprising. Italy is surprising
because they're so conservative in a lot of ways. And you know, Mexico, and obviously in Asian cultures, in all over Asia, this was a big thing. In Australia, so it's just it just blows my mind that we've gotten so far away from that. Because
I'm gonna say, I don't mean to drag on it, but I really, and I am, fuck it, I'm going to drag on it just a little bit, is unfortunately, I think Christianity just kind of...
just fucked us.
Yes.
Fucked so much stuff. And, you know, and I think a lot of people don't realize that modern Christianity is actually, or the Bible that we use today is not even a true collection of...
No, it was written by politicians who used it for their own political gain.
And worded it in such a way.
Yeah.
Eliminated stories, crafted new ones. Like, it's...
Because wasn't there a female... There was a fifth gospel, and it was a female apostle, and they just wrote her out.
Of course they did.
The woman that apparently Jesus slept with. Why am I blanking on her name?
Yeah. But it was like Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and like Judith. Like
Hillary,
whatever her name was.
Megan.
Judith
it was Megan.
It was Megan. It was Sheila. The gospel according to Sheila.
I really don't even think he's cute. I literally don't even think he's cute. No.
That was the whole thing. She was like, ugh, these sandals.
I was wasted. Like, it was not even a thing. Like,
no, but like, that's where Christianity...
I didn't think I was into long hair, but...
I mean, my God.
You put it up in that bun. Oh my God.
He turned water into wine, and let's just say, I woke up and it was Thursday. But
I may have eaten his bread.
Oh no. But yeah, Christianity kind of, they ruined the party. They were that toxic friend. I just found the ones from Italy. They're called Feminielis. And they were the ones that were big on the gambling. They were like, They were accepted as a third sex, deemed special for combining the strengths of both man and woman. They were, especially for Neapolitans, they were meant to bring good luck. People brought their newborn babies to them, and also they were popular companions for gambling, which like that just like killed me. Now
I'm just like in Atlantic City with all my trans friends, like come on.
And I was like, of course it was. I was like, which culture was it? I was like, oh yeah, it was the Neapolitans. It was the Italians. And I was like, again, this feels right.
Rolling the dice. Rolling the dice.
But also kiss my baby. It was all together. But it just goes to show that like anybody who you meet who's just like, I don't understand. And it's like, but these people have been around in almost every ancient civilization, had a two-spirit person, and they were respected and revered. And I think it's just like, just because you don't understand. That's why I feel like so many ancient cultures, in a way, like we're so advanced, but also have gone backwards in so many ways, where they, as opposed to being afraid of things they didn't understand, they, in a lot of ways, sort of accepted and sort of glorified. They were like, we don't get it, but that means it's probably better than us.
Yeah, like beyond our understanding. Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there are a lot of ways where they were like, we don't get you, so we're going to set you on fire. But there were also...
there was that.
There was also, I'm sure there are a lot of instances of like, I don't understand, so like, let me either throw you in a pond or burn you. But like...
Or make you a high priestess.
It's sort of one or the other. So anyway, there was, I just think that's fascinating. This whole article was great. I learned a lot. Oh, is that my timer already?
Is that the timer?
Because I was going to talk about a movie and a musical because I love to talk about Broadway shows. Damn it, I had so much more.
It was a good conversation.
Really quick shout out to this movie, Next Goal Wins. Which came out a couple years ago with Michael Fassbender, and it's a true story about a soccer coach who gets sent to Samoa to coach a soccer team that was literally the worst soccer team in the world. And one of the players is a two-spirit person, and he's this curmudgeon-y alcoholic who really does not like them. And then they end up becoming really great friends. And it's this really lovely movie where you actually learn a lot about a two-spirit person. So that. Next Goal Wins. Great movie. It's a sports movie.
Is it on anything? Like on any of the streaming
I saw it
services?
in a movie theater. But I'm sure it's streaming somewhere. But yeah, Next Goal Wins with Michael Fassbender. Beautiful movie where you learn about soccer, the world of soccer, but also two-spirit. And then the musical version of Some Like It Hot on Broadway, which if you know the movie Some Like It Hot, great old movie with Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah.
And then they made it into a Broadway musical, and it's about like two musicians trying to get away from the mob who dress as women and get into an all-female jazz band in the 1920s to escape the Chicago mob. And then one of them ends up falling with the female singer, which was Marilyn Monroe. But I think to do it in this day and age, they were like, let's take it a step further. And they had one of them, turns out, is a non-binary person, and he finds his real self. He goes from he to they because he identifies more with his female persona that he adopts to get away from the mob, and actually really loves being a woman. And ends up falling in love with a man who falls in love with him as his female self. And that person sort of finds out that what they really love is a gender fluid person. And
I love that.
And it's obviously set in the 1920s. So the character never has the terminology or the verbiage. All they know is that they love being their female self. And it's this really fun layer to it where it's just like by the end, like that character chooses to stay as their female person.
What was the name again? What was the name of the
Some Like It Hot is the musical. It's touring right now. It was on Broadway last year, and it's on the road. The national tour is going. But it was such a fun way to like take this great movie and put a fun sort of like twist on it.
Yeah, I love that.
Anyway, so I was going to talk about how great those were.
I went and looked. If you want to watch Next Goal Wins, it looks like it's on Hulu and Disney Plus.
Oh, perfect.
Great. So anyway, that's Two-Spirit. Here we are. Let's be kinder to Two-Spirit people and potentially take them gambling with you, because they're more empowered beings, and maybe they'll bring you luck.
I'll do anything. I'll try anything.
It's going to be so awkward. I'm going to meet somebody Two-Spirit. I'm going to be like, oh my God, are we going gambling?
You like Atlantic City? Yeah.
Only the Italian version, though. Are you a Neapolitan?
Question, have you ever been to Vegas?
Yeah. All right, and I apologize if I accidentally said anything that is not correct. Like when I a joke about an Egyptian bar mitzvah. To anybody listening, if I said something wrong, I do apologize because I probably said a lot of things wrong, and it was done with the best of intentions. But just out there, I'm sure I got a lot of things wrong. But I have a lot to learn.
Well,
Clearly.
I had actually texted Michael this morning, and I was like, my corporate mind is struggling with this a little bit because it's in the cross section of indigenous people, and then the specificity of the two spirit part. I'm like, it's such a topic that requires honor, and we're kind of about satire.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how do you bridge this space between honor and satire? But the way I'm looking at it is like,
Atlantic City, turns out.
hopefully we've brought a really positive focus to it, and we will win them a little bit money when we go gambling together.
Firstly, turns out the bridge is actually a craps table. It's actually a slot machine.
All right, Ryan. Are you ready? Thank you for letting me go over a little bit. I appreciate it.
Of course.
All right. I won't do the same for you.
I knew that.
All right.
What you don't see is notes I'm taking right now. And that comment.
You're like, Michael was going to win, and then he was a dick.
There's a demerit point.
Then he got a little uppity there.
He got a little uppity.
The clock, so.
Okay, ready? And go.
Okay, so for Two Spirits, I obviously did a little bit of the research, but Michael, like, you kind of knocked it out of the park on the kind of history and then kind of interlinking, through time as well as across cultures.
Which I wasn't planning on doing. I thought you were going to go first and cover the history. I was like,
I'm here to mix it up.
Well, actually, I feel like you've maybe made it a little bit harder for me because I was going to touch on that bit. And then I have my hook that I think is my win. But it turns out that the Two Spirit thing is only really come into like modern topic since like 1990s with the desire to kind of reclaim the space, right? So it's not a new age concept. While we've started to say Two Spirit, like Michael, like you pointed out, this is a very long time standing thing. And the one thing that was kind of called out is really quelling or kind of destroying the culture was boarding schools. And there's awful, awful stories about boarding schools. This is like a really big problem. It was probably a big problem throughout North America, but I know in Canada there were significant settlements with Indigenous people from both the Methodists and I believe Catholic churches as it related to how people were treated in these boarding schools, where children were beaten and or even killed as it related to identifying as Two Spirit. And to your earlier point, like being told you're a man, so that's what you are.
So it's like their version of a conversion camp.
Well, and for those kids, must have been so confusing because they grew up in a culture where it was like accepted.
Yeah,
and they're just like, "What do you mean I have to choose?"
Terrible. Like, maybe because I have a little bit more time, I will bridge off and tell one little like offshoot story. So, I worked for a company that is a Canadian-based company. So I would be up there for various things and obviously involved in various diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives. And I participated in a sharing circle, an Indigenous sharing circle. And they had invited a gentleman who, for lack of a better way of putting it, was a kind of a lifetime criminal that had rebuilt his life around art and had created sharing circle art. And he was brought in to speak. This character went so far off script in this corporate environment. It was maybe one of my favorite corporate moments ever because he was there to tell a little bit about his life and how he had progressed into this art space. And so he gets the microphone and I think he talks for a solid 15 minutes. And he goes, he talks about it. The goal was to talk about the awful things that had happened to him in these boarding schools. And I think the storyline there was like, I had these awful experiences in boarding schools, and thus it kind of put me on a bad trajectory. But he kind of like, he's like, yeah, I got treated awful. Like I was, sexually abused. I was beaten. I learned to toughen up, and this is how I learned to fight. And he's like, so I went through this period of selling drugs. And he goes, you know what? I got to tell you, I I don't feel terrible about that at all. I actually had the best time of my life selling drugs. It was such a good time. Man, I just remember trying to get them across the border and like he's going into it. And then he's like, and then I went through this phase of robbing houses. He goes, do you know what a thrill it was to robbing houses? I enjoyed robbing houses so much. It was like the best time I ever had. This one time, this couple walked in and we just ran off with their stuff. He goes, I still think about how much I enjoyed it.
Oh,
That's hilarious. Not gonna lie, I'm a little sold. Like, watch out, neighbors.
yeah.
Just for the adrenaline rush. Like, I'll take it back. I'll be like, here are candlesticks. I'm so sorry.
Very executive people standing around listening to this, and you can see people getting uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable. Oh, yeah.
And I was like, keep this going. This is amazing.
Love it.
And there was like a whole bunch of conversation after it was over about the appropriateness of it. And, you know, I kind of personally said, I was like, look, there are plenty of people that went through that experience that have come out on the other side that don't relish in the pain of others. And I said, you know, I think maybe not the best speaker for other things going forward because I think there are other
him to tell his
stories.
story, and he told his story.
He emphatically did. Like I said, I don't have any problem with his story.
He's like, I had a great time robbing people.
I had a great time making other people miserable. So this is where I kind of head into my other hook, because I sat and I thought about like, where in our culture today do we potentially have the concept of two-spirit, where we have people who traverse the male-female space or male-female embodiment? And I immediately went to drag queens.
Yeah.
And then I went to Trixie Mattel.
Oh, girl.
You went to a good place.
You know that I live and breathe for Trixie Mattel.
Well, so Trixie Mattel is part Ojibwe, and does not identify as two-spirit, but there are a lot of parallels. And so I kind of did the research on like what it meant to be two-spirit, and then kind of talked about like, okay, or I'm thinking about like, how has she embodied this? Well, first of all, she's an incredible advocate for her indigenous heritage, as well as an incredible advocate for the LGBT plus space, right? Which I think for those who know Trixie Mattel, they know this. So a lot of 2S people, the two-spirit actually embodies a lot of different things, kind of, Michael, as you pointed out, but one of them is a warrior. So some two-spirit people were warriors within their indigenous cultures. So I'm like, okay, so Trixie Mattel is a bit of a warrior for both the knowledge around indigenous people as well as a warrior for the LGBTQ plus community.
Yeah. And I don't know if it came up in your research, but she also like escaped like abuse from her stepfather and like got out of that. And her name is because her abusive stepfather used to call her a Trixie when she was being too feminine.
I didn't know that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So it was funny. I actually did. So the research that I did alluded to the name being interlinked to a bit of growing up, and I didn't get to that point. So
yeah,
thank you.
Isn't that cool? And obviously the Mattel because she loves Barbie, but yeah.
Oh yeah, the Barbie part. Oh, and then 2S people were matchmakers. So Trixie has married people at her hotel in Palm Springs, as well as she helped Katya find love on a series. So I'm like, all right, there we go. Trixie has done it again. 2S people are also responsible in their tribes, or could be responsible in their tribes, for keeping spirits high and bringing positivity to negative situations. So obviously, like that, I think, is what she embodies on so many different levels, because she is about entertainment. She's about bringing the right light to, as I've already said, like our community as well as indigenous people. She embodies gender fluidity, like the ability to walk into the feminine space and then walk back into the masculine space as it's appropriate for, whatever's going on. And then I also like the fact that 2S folks are identify with storytelling. So Trixie embodies comedy, which is obviously a form of storytelling, drag, which is entertainment and storytelling. And then I think it's important to call out to Trixie's folk and country music,
Yeah.
which is actually storytelling
Storytelling.
usually.
Yeah.
So I just thought it was kind of cool. So I think the reality is that in some ways we have started to embody this in a modern way. And I think about that even when we go see any drag show, right? These are people who understand how to traverse the dynamics of the male and female relationship, whether it be in dress or an act or an engagement. So in some way, I feel like we have a little bit of a 2S or a two-spirit embodiment around us pretty actively today, or especially if you're within the LGBTQ plus community.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
So
Yeah. And drag is such, I mean, you guys both know I literally would give my life to drag. I go to drag as frequently as possible. I surround myself with drag queens. I know an alarming amount of stuff about Trixie and Katya. I've seen them. When I go to North Carolina in March, we're going to see the Bald and Beautiful live in Durham. So,
Fun.
but I've always thought of drag as a statement and a protest, but that digs so much deeper, especially with someone like Trixie, who has that 75%, native. And I don't know if you've ever seen a picture of her mom, but if you look at her mom, you can see that is absolutely an Indigenous woman. Wow. Look at you making them connections.
I know. I was laying in bed and going back to my earlier point, I was like, oh man, I mean, we're a bit about satire here and about funny or entertaining. And I was like, but it's so serious. And I'm like, and then I was like, oh my God. I was like, Trixie kind of traverses. And I was like, wait, I think she's Indigenous. And I was like, yes. And I was like, and Jordan loves her.
Yes. Even drag in general, we go to drag because it's fun, right? And yeah, we love to throw our singles, and we love when the girls get nasty and roll all over the floor and all that, and they're in their outfits and they're padded up and they look incredible and the makeup is fierce and they smell so good. But at the root of it all, it is a protest. It is a statement on, maybe in your eyes I'm a man under this, but not right now, and get over it.
And interesting that you say that, because, and again, when I was researching all the different cultures that had these people, they would dress in different ways, and it wasn't, it was just accepted. It just was. If you saw a man in traditionally female dress in a lot of these cultures, it wasn't a weird thing. It was just oh, cool, or vice versa. If you saw a woman dress, it wasn't. It's sad that things have changed where it has to be, where you're right, that it is inherently a statement now because it's become that way. But there was a time when it was just normal. It wasn't
And Michael, you reminded me of something. I think it's a kind of a really good point. Is that so I had a friend that was up in P-Town for a conference, and it turns out there was another conference going on for cross-dressing. And I think and he was like, it was very interesting because it wasn't LGBTQ plus people. It was actually straight people, and it was straight couples who just dress towards the opposite gender, right? So the reality is this isn't, and that was one of the points, by the way, that was made in some of the research that I did, is that the 2S thing, while associated with LGBT plus, is not necessarily an LGBT plus thing. But the reality is we have the same things today, and there are plenty of people who cross-dress who are not in the LGBT plus community.
1,000%. And I've said so often, I've had this conversation with friends that I hate how, if you see a woman, I do it, right? If I put on basketball shorts and a big sweatshirt, no one assumes I'm queer. It's just a girl wearing her man's clothes or wearing comfy clothes. But if you went out in a dress, people would lose their mind. And I'm like, what is the difference? You don't get upset when I'm in quadruple XL sweatpants and an oversized t-shirt, but you would be upset if a man came outside in a pink robe.
But remember when it was such a thing back in the day when women wore pants?
Yeah.
Could you believe
it? So Michael, I was going to say, think about it. In a corporate world, women will put on the quote unquote power suit.
Yep.
Right. And and then technically, if we're in the vein of what we're talking about, we're kind of challenging gender norms within a concept, right?
Yeah.
And like it's perfectly acceptable. I mean, it's pervasive everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what's my time? Did I use it?
You've been up for a while. But again, as per usual, I was thoroughly enjoying it. So I like we say it's 10 minutes and that sometimes we stick to it, but not this. This whole episode has felt like such a nice sort of like free flow.
Yeah.
So Jordan, we've made it trickier for you, but
it's pleasing to me when like you'll be talking in an episode and you'll be like, and that's my point. Ding.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, that was so pleasurable that it landed.
I just want to be clear. That is excellent editing by Blair and not us at all.
Now it's like, now this is like being in the basement of Disney World. Like now I know the magic and I'm upset.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
It's like seeing Mickey with his head off.
I'm just the guy inside the Pluto costume. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is the hard one. I will be honest, because I feel like the Italian thing really, that I was like, whoa. Like,
right? It surprised me too.
Because I know, like, I'm Latin. So, like, I know that it's pretty strong in Latin cultures. I'm Puerto Rican. Like, I know not just Puerto Rican, but other Latin cultures have lots of identities that the more identity you have, like the higher you're regarded. But a lot of European, I would never assume just because of their conservative, and I'm not saying anything bad. It's just, that's not where my brain would go. Like I go to like Thai, like any sort of Southeast Asian. But Ryan came in with the Trixie Mattel and
you can't.
That's my
you
girl.
You gotta give it to Trixie.
That's my. I literally put on this like black T-shirt. I know like it's not a visible podcast, but I had on a Katya T-shirt right before I put this on. So.
I was gonna say, in all honesty, this is actually the first one where I was like, "Holy shit! I actually really have a hook." Like I was like, I know this one. She's gonna like.
I like though, Ryan, when you first started, and then you talked about the guy who was like, I had a great time robbing people and selling drugs, and you were like, and that's my first hook. On to the second.
You're like, what is Jordan doing?
And in my head, I was like, what does Jordan have in common with like Winona Ryder? Like, is there something?
Actually, I think that was probably poorly stated on my part, but Jordan is kind of a badass. So,
and you know what? I felt like I was like, wow, yeah, honestly, go off, King. Like, tell him about it. Like, I had no.
To be fair, it did kind of work.
Yeah. No, I got. Anytime Trixie's mentioned, I'm so sorry, Michael. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I understand.
And just the parallels, which like I know them obviously because she is Indigenous, but and I love her folk music, but I never even thought about how every single one of her songs is written by her. Like there's stories about her life. She has songs about her family, her best friends, and that's so, in line with how Indigenous people communicate stories over time. So,
and Ryan, I learned a lot in using Trixie as sort of the metaphor. Like it was great. I thoroughly enjoyed that.
Thank you. I literally stressed about this all week. Like I thought about it all week and I'm like, what am I going to say? Like, how do I keep this?
Yeah.
And then this morning it was like a moment. And I was like, oh.
The clouds parted.
Yeah.
And
I'm
Trixie
sure
descended from the sky. And one person went clack with a clack fan and she like smoked them. She's like, that's actually, I will say, my favorite Trixie Mattel moment. I went to Market Days in Chicago and Trixie was performing on like a fairly small stage. This was a while ago. So it was great. So it was pretty intimate. Yeah. And all these guys had their like clack fans out. And Trixie was like, no, I hate clack fans. Yeah. If I hear a prat, I am stopping. Get out. And so like everyone sort of like put their fans away.
She and I have this in common.
And I'm with it. It's so satisfying to do, but so annoying when you're at a concert or something and somebody's trying to sing and people are like, yes, clack, clack, clack. And you're just like, no. And then a couple of songs in, one like little twank was like, Prat! And Trixie stopped the song and was like, who did that?
I love that. That's so her too, to just be like, what did I just say?
Exactly. It was like, I will walk off this stage.
Oh, I love her. I can't wait to see them all. Beautiful lives. They're so funny. Well, so
Give our next word.
Yeah, I was thinking about it yesterday and I was thinking about it this morning. It's not a complex word, but as you know, or maybe not, my background is in art and I love art. I will consume art like a little kid, face at the TV. And one of my favorite art words is contrapposto.
Contrapposto.
I have no idea. I don't even know what the word means. I'm excited because I'm going to learn something new here quickly.
It's good. It's one of my favorite art terms. And it's obviously just a word that means something, but if you look into it, it goes very deep. Which is cool. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being such a brilliant judge, co-host.
Thank you guys. This was so fun.
It's such a pleasure to see you.
If we do it again, I'm expecting you to start it up a little bit better. So take those notes.
I will. Yes. I'm still very sorry. Think about it. Think about what you've done.